Hey, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be doing my out-of-box review for the HG Build Fighters Reversible Gundam. And I gotta say, I like this kit quite a bit. As I mentioned in the unboxing, the Reborns Gundam, which this is based off of, is a design that I quite liked for a while. Just the front of it, but I never ended up picking up the HG. I didn't really like the back of it, though. I just didn't like that whole sort of kind of derpy gun cannon look there on the back. But in this case, they pretty much changed all of that, so I like it a lot better. On the front, there's really not a whole lot changed. Really, all the parts they did change for this design are on the back. So kind of, if you were like me and didn't really like the look of that Gundam from the back, then you'll be pretty happy with this, as I am. But I think actually most people probably liked that gimmick of the Reborns Gundam. I think I'm just kind of maybe in the minority of not really caring too much for that. So on the front of the Gundam here, there's really not a whole lot changed except for the new V-fin, which I quite like. It really has that kind of crown look to it by adding the extra horns there on the front. Most of the changes are going to be more noticeable from the side or from the back, as we have those huge big attachments added onto the back of the arm there, with those new shields and claws on the side and those huge claw-like arms that are just like stored up on the back of the arm, and then the new changes to the backpack and changes to the back skirt. I quite like the changes to the back skirt as well. It's, you know, a change on a back skirt you'd think would be not really all that noticeable, but when you do see the kit from the back, compared with the original back skirt, I think these ones do actually look really cool, and they do serve a use for the transformation as well, so I'll talk about that here in a little bit. But the colors that it's molded in just straight out of the box may not be all that appealing to some people. Might find it a little bit boring, just white and gray, and that kind of a little bit ugly kind of cream color. I don't really quite like the color of that cream. It's sort of like a light tan radome kind of color, but it's just something about the plastic quality of that, the translucency of that. It seems a little bit odd looking color, so we'll definitely look forward to painting this a little bit later. I probably won't even stick to this original color scheme. I'll give it something a little bit more unique, but overall, really quite like this new design a lot. When I was building it, I'm thinking like, oh man, this is like the real heavy arms. If you're talking about like giving it a different name, like heavy arms just seems to be something that would fit this even more so than the wing style design. But it's got big, heavy arms, but it seems like it's pretty solid enough that it shouldn't really have too big of an issue there. So you do have some leftover parts, of course, with this being a reused kit, so I'll show you some of those. Some of them are actually quite useful, so you might want to hang on to them. As for the stickers, it's really pretty minimal there as well. You'll be noticing a lot of these big, thick black lines across mostly across the front of the Gundam there. And that's going to be stickers, but of course those are really easy enough to paint in. So before we get into the articulation, I'll just point out where all those stickers are for you guys. So we have two green ones there on the top, and there is a small little tiny clear piece here that's supposed to fit there on the front of the V-fin. But mine, I think I trimmed too much off, like where the nub is or something, or trimmed too much off of the V-fin part. I think it was actually the V-fin. There's like a little nub on the top of the V-fin that you have to trim off, but I think I trimmed a little bit too much, and that's actually meant to help hold this in place. So mine actually doesn't really want to stay in place, so I'll just keep that, and then like later when I paint it, just glue it there, or just kind of do without it. I think I might not really mind just having it without. I don't know, we'll have to see what I end up doing with mine, but that's why you'll notice, at least for the review, that little clear piece won't be there, but it does come with that. There's the green sticker that fits inside that, so you put the green sticker on the plastic part for the chest inside there, and then you put this clear part over the top of it. It looks okay, but that as well, I may end up just painting that clear part as and not keeping it clear. I mean, just painting it over. Anyway, we'll see. But then black stickers there for the chest vents, of course. Black stickers running down the center of the torso. Black stickers on the front skirts, on the front of the thighs there. And then here on the back of the legs for these little vents here on the left and right side, you got little stickers just to fill in those black parts. So most of the stickers are not really for color apps, or just cameras and these lining parts, which will be easy enough to fill in, whether you do it by paint or Gundam marker or pen or however you want to do that. There's really not too much to do in terms of the stickers, missing color apps for this. As for the articulation, the head goes nice and far up, all the way to there. And I forgot to mention there's a sticker for the eyes, of course, but that pretty much goes without saying. Head down to there. The shoulder armor is quite interesting, as it looks like it's just one piece, but this part actually moves independently, and this part actually moves independently a little tiny bit as well. So all said, you can get that shoulder armor just up to there at its maximum. You have to kind of move this part out of the way, but you can get the arm up to right about there, a little bit more than 90 degrees, not too much though. You can get some rotation at the top of the arm. Just a single joint in the elbow, so you're only going to get a 90-degree bend there at the elbow, unfortunately. The lower part of the arm rotates as well. Here, I've got it holding the gun at the moment, so it's not going to do much. You can also bend it here. That's, again, for the transformation. You're supposed to actually flip that around. But you can sort of make that, because it only has a single joint at the elbow, you can get a little bit more bend in the arm just by kind of faking that by bending it here, a little bit there at the forearm a bit if you wanted to have that hand a little bit higher up. But as far as this Swiss Army knife contraption there on the side of the arm, this whole thing has a joint there at the top, which will move up and down like that. The shield will rotate like this, and then you can open up these claws there at the front. Those did have safety flags on there on the end of those, but I just cut those off. The V-fin also had safety flags on there, but I cut and sanded those down as well. The handgun is just on this piece, which will move up and down there. And you can rotate here, just kind of have to work this around into the hand. Set this back part up flush. Pop that down into the hand like so. Rotate the shield around to kind of cover the side of that. And then this claw part is just not really supposed to be used in its normal mobile suit mode apparently, because you just can't really get it to go forward. You have to take it apart and turn this around. Let me see just how easy that would be or not. So I guess if you wanted it to be like actually in use in mobile suit mode, yeah, it's easy enough to just take that off, turn it around, face it the other way, and then you can actually have this in use like that out the front. But technically it's just supposed to be used for its either cannon mode or tank mode when it's transformed. So for now, we'll just leave it as it's supposed to be there out the back. In the waist, we've got a ball joint up in the torso and then down at the bottom of the waist here, so you can get some nice bend there. It has a pretty good bend back. Forward, not really so much there. It can't really go forward at all. Also, side to side, nothing, but it can rotate. The front skirts are joined, but you can clip those apart for independent movement. They're only going to be able to go up to about there, 90 degrees. Side skirts are on ball joints and move up and down, but as soon as you overextend that a little tiny bit, it's going to pop out, so just be careful of that. The hips are just a ball and socket, so you're not going to get a whole lot of rotation there at the top of the leg, or a very wide spread. That's about as wide as you can get. It's barely 90 degrees. But you can bring the leg up pretty far and then get a nice double joint there in the knee. You'll notice there is a bit of armor separation here. When you bend this, the knee armor kind of comes out of the lower leg there a little bit. So that's pretty nice. Down here at the ankles, they'll move side to side pretty nicely. Forward and back. And then this toe part actually moves a little bit on its own. And the back part also moves a little bit on its own, again, for the transformation. Really like this detail here on the back of the legs too. I'll just take a minute to appreciate that. And then these back skirts, these are also actually joined just like the front skirts are, but you can clip them as well to be separated, and then they can move independently if you want. You do also have a couple of stickers here for the vents in those back skirts as well. Forgot to mention that. And here in the center of the backpack where that derpy gun cannon head was is just gone now, and it's just kind of this weird. It still has this kind of like dinosaur head looking mouth kind of thing to it, but that opens up like so, and you can see you've got that thruster that's just kind of hiding in there. So that is a kind of cool thing, I suppose. And then here for these binders on the backpack, they're kind of hidden amongst everything, kind of hard to see, but they do have a little bit of a Shinanju vibe to them. I think it's like this top part is kind of Shinanju or Rosen Zulu-esque, but I like the shape of that quite a bit. This is more, again, for the transformation, but how you can rotate this part forward out like that, and then set that there for the cannons. Again, you'll see that when it's transformed, but that's just how that looks if you, for whatever reason, wanted to have them like that while it's in mobile suit mode. And then here on the top is our beam saber handles. So you've got two of those that can just fold forward if you want to be kind of like pretending to reach and grab for that. While it's nice to have two beam saber handles, unfortunately you only have one beam saber effect part, so this was just in plain clear. So if you want this in any particular color, you'll have to get some clear paint to paint that up. And then really the only other accessory for it is just these little hands. So I showed you the forearms do rotate around when it's transformed, and you'll replace on the other end of those, you plug in these little tiny hands there, which again they're not really used for anything. You can't really grab anything, but they're just kind of there to, I guess, help with the look of the cannon mode. So again, we'll talk about the transformation here in a minute, but just some other extra parts that you do have, which are worth noting here, is you have the Reborns Gundam rifle, which is really quite nice. I think this is all the parts to make that. You have all of that, so it's a really nice looking gun. I'll definitely put this to use for something. You have the original V-fin, if you like that. Like I said, I really like the look of this new V-fin, so I probably won't change that, but I'll, again, maybe use this for something else. You have the original back skirt armor. Again, if you don't like this more big, clunky version, and you like this shape more, you can use that. You do have the parts needed for that little head that goes on the back originally, a little clear part for that, and so this, I think, can just plug onto just a normal ball joint, so you could actually use this on like pretty much any kit that uses a ball joint for a head. So just for example, I'll just grab this HG gay rail, forgive the missing shoulder armor, but just for an example so you guys can see that, can be used just as a head like that, which you could use for some other sort of custom or something. I still think it looks kind of derpy, but I think some of you guys might find use for that. You don't have the full shield, but you do have a couple of parts to make up at least part of the original shield of the Reborns Gundam. And then you do have these couple of like GN drive caps. Again, don't have the full parts to make the parts which make the GN drives on the back of the arms of the original Reborns Gundam, but again, some of you guys might find them useful to make some sort of GN custom. Alright, so let's get this guy transformed into cannon mode. Well, now I think you gotta admit that is pretty cool. Yeah, not really for me, but if you like the look of that, then that's pretty cool. One thing that I do like about this, I mean, while this is something that I'll probably never care to do with this again after this review, but just by the fact that it does this, there's a lot of options for customizing with this, I think, whether you want to take these parts and maybe do something a little bit more unique with them. So like by the fact that the thing on the back of the arm with the claw and the shield and the handgun, by the fact that it does all that stuff, and the purpose of all that stuff moving around is for this transformation, but I think you can use that to your advantage to make it customized into something. So like you can use all the joints and everything in those parts to change that into some other weapons, or move stuff around, or swap some stuff around backwards or forwards, or however you want to do it. So that's one thing that I do think is on the plus side of all of that transformation gimmick built into that. Otherwise, I think I would venture to say probably not too many people are going to be too interested in this particular form. I imagine it looked more cool in the anime, but as far as the kit goes, not so much. Okay, so let's make this even worse and transform it into tank mode. So basically we are going to straighten up the legs and do a little bit of this here. Whew, so have a look at that. And let's never speak of it again. Now unfortunately, because this kit is from a time before Bandai came up with the good idea of putting a peg hole up in the waist of the kits to plug them onto an action base, you have to use that kind of fork plug adapter for the action base, which will kind of go around the hip joints. And the unfortunate thing about that is that it gets in the way for kits like this, that the hip joint is just a ball and socket like that. The articulation there at the hips is already limited enough due to that, but then once you add in a big thing of plastic there in between the kind of hip and the leg, that's also going to limit the articulation, so you really can't get a very wide stance there, a very wide spread in the legs at all when you've got this plugged up onto an action base. So that's a little bit annoying, so I would definitely recommend getting out a drilling a hole up into that skirt armor, the waist up underneath there, so you can just plug this onto a peg style action base, and that will definitely help it a lot. Other thing is that all the new parts are all really great, and the color separation is really nice, but you will have a few seam lines, not really too much actually, to be honest, just a couple there on the shoulders, on the gray parts on the forearms, other parts, the white parts on the forearms as well. But overall, in terms of the seam lines, it's really not too bad, and where they are, it's areas that should be relatively simple to wipe them out. It's not like any places that are packed with a lot of detail or too strangely shaped or anything. It's all should be relatively easy to do. The other thing you can notice there is on the arm, you can tuck the gun up underneath the arm, so it doesn't have to be permanently held in the hand, even though that's pretty much how you see it most of the time. You can not hold that by folding the gun up underneath the arm. It does look a little bit odd. You can also rotate the shield around there to the back, as I have in this case too. So again, I like the customization of those parts, how you can just kind of move them around in different ways to suit however you particularly like the look of the kit. I like that quite a bit. Overall, I gotta say, it's a really cool kit. Definitely an improvement over the original in my personal point of view, so I'm quite happy with this. I like this quite a bit. The Build Fighters, HG Build Fighters line keeps going on and on and on, and doesn't seem like it's ever going to end, but you know, as long as they're still putting out fine kits like this, I think I'm going to be totally okay with that. So if you guys think you also like the look of this kit, then I would definitely recommend it. I think it makes a pretty nice solid HG kit. So despite it being based on a pretty old one, that doesn't really seem to be much of an issue for this particular release. So if you guys do still have any other questions or comments, feel free to leave those down below. Otherwise, have fun, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Hey! Thanks for watching, guys. Remember, if you want to check the kit out for yourself, you can head over to USA Gundam Store. Use that coupon code ZakuAurelius10. Save yourself 10%. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time. Bye-bye.